Compulsion of national anthem in cinema halls. Nationalism and patriotism should come naturally but not forcefully. Is Indian education system failing to produce the generation with real patriotism and nationalism? It has been ordered to display meaningless patriotism in cinema halls. But what will this achieve? What do the Constitution says about national anthem? How was the nationalism in the eyes of the creator of national anthem, Rabindranath Tagore? GS Paper 2, Indian Constitution Historical Underpinnings, Evolution, Features, Amendments, Significant Provisions and Basic Structure. What is the context about? Last week the Supreme Court made it compulsory for cinemas to play the national anthem before every show, to instill committed patriotism and nationalism. While the move is welcome, the manner in which it is being enforced has attracted criticisms from many sections across the country. Many have argued that people should not be forced to stand for the national anthem in cinema halls. By taking the patriotism test into the cinema hall, by force-feeding a notion of nationalism to people seeking entertainment, the court has not just offered an instance of striking judicial overreach. Is Indian education system failing to produce the generation with real patriotism and nationalism? Once the High Court held that real patriotism and nationalism would come naturally to Indian children if they were taught about India in their schools. Since we have persisted with a public education system disposed to us by our colonial masters, most Indian children continue to grow up learning more about English and American writers and poets than their own. They see their own history through the eyes of foreign historians, and their knowledge of the epics is limited to Ram Leelas and Bollywood films. Not decolonizing Indian school curriculums was probably the biggest mistake that is costing us the real patriotism and nationalism among children. There is as much need to improve teaching standards in government schools as there is for curriculums to include books written by Indian writers, poets and historians. Unless this happens, we will continue to produce generations of Indians who are linguistically and culturally illiterate, and whose sole ambition is to learn English so that they can escape to countries where they can make better lives than they can in the motherland. It has been ordered to display meaningless patriotism in cinema halls. But what will this achieve? The short answer is nothing. Real patriotism and nationalism is what we feel every time a young soldier dies defending India's borders. It is what we feel when India shows that it has the ability to produce great scientists, musicians and entrepreneurs. It is what we feel when the Indian economy grows faster than any other, and it is what we will feel when our cities stop looking like slums and when our villages stop looking like wastelands. When India looks good, patriotism and nationalism do not need to be ordained by political leaders or judges. It comes spontaneously, and this is the kind of nationalism that will make a real difference, not the synthetic kind. What do the Constitution says about national anthem? India's Constitution speaks of respect to the national flag and anthem as a fundamental duty in Part 4A, a non-justiciable part of the document. Article 51A says that it shall be the duty of every citizen of India to abide by the Constitution and respect the ideals of the national flag and the national anthem. The message of the Founding Fathers was clear: respect to the nation and its symbols would not be enforced by state diktat or extracted through legal compulsion. These duties are, perhaps not coincidentally, currently in vogue even outside the judiciary. How was the nationalism in the eyes of the creator of national anthem, Rabindranath Tagore? In 1908, Rabindranath Tagore wrote a letter to his friend, A.M. Bose, and said, "Patriotism can't be our final spiritual shelter. I will not buy glass for the price of diamonds, and I will never allow patriotism to triumph over humanity as long as I live." Throughout his life, Tagore remained deeply critical of nationalism, a position that pitted him against Mahatma Gandhi. Tagore argued that when love for one's country gives way to worship, or becomes a sacred obligation, then disaster is the inevitable outcome. "To worship my country as a god is to bring curse upon it," Tagore wrote in his 1916 novel, The Home and the World. In the then influential Calcutta journal, Modern Review, Tagore wrote about an international desire to achieve the unity of man by destroying the bondage of nationalism in order to achieve the unity of man. Recently, Trinamool Congress MP said in Parliament, "I sometimes fear that those who are defining nationalism so narrowly will end up one day describing Rabindranath Tagore as anti-national, if they read some of the sentences in his book on nationalism."